Hello. I'd like to thank Daniela Grossenbacher for inviting me to give this urban thinking talk, and to FIABC, a group that I've worked with over the years and whose work on affordable housing has inspired me for many, many years. Today, I'm going to speak about creating more livable cities post-COVID-19. We are faced with so many issues, local and global, confusing, difficult, nearly impossible to solve, many challenges to ponder. And I don't want to frighten you in the next few minutes, but I've frightened myself as I enumerate the issues and try to figure out what I can do to help solve them. So I'm going to share my screen and hopefully start our talk. Urban Thinking Talks, Creating More Livable Cities Post-COVID-19, Challenges to Ponder. Indeed, there are. Climate change, rising temperatures, forest fires, sea rise, storm surge, incredible extremes we're facing. We wonder how we can solve just this issue. But we have to understand first the limits of our land and natural resources. And then with that knowledge and a little bit more knowledge about how we behave in this world, what our culture is, how it's changing, so we can instruct our post-COVID-19 urban future. There's population growth. Today, more than half the world's population lives in cities. By 2020, 6 in 10 people will be urban dwellers. I'll refer a lot to Sustainable Development Goal 11 of UN Habitat. Goal 11 says, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. To create a better city, we must address livability, health and wellness, lifelong education, economic vitality, food and food production, as well as celebrating diversity in our cities. There's mass migration worldwide. Over 1 billion people are moving because of political, economic, just their own safety issues. When refugees come into our communities and our cities, we must truly integrate them into our lifestyle, into our lives. This is a very difficult problem, but it will help us help our economies and help our futures. We must understand density. Our cities, in our minds, are often high-rise cities with some good light and air and large open spaces, but dense, and give us, because of anonymity, the feeling of anonymity gives us feelings of isolation. And there's dysfunction in dense high-rise communities. And we must address this. On the right, another level of density, actually very similar in density and just number of people per hectare. It's about the same in these low-rise informal communities that are formed by taking land that's just open and free land, and then not having proper city services to them, and have many legal issues and health issues because of poor drainage and sewage and all the other problems that we know of in our informal communities. But they often have social and economic vitality, and that's important as well. We must understand how our communities, as we create them, become one that form communities of people that can work with each other and know each other. Back before World War II, in the early 20th century, many architects, because of new innovation in concrete technology and elevator technology, were able to build higher. And their idea was that we had a modern future for modern man, that we should create machines for living. And later, we found that people are not machines, and culture and other aspects of lifestyle make us not fit into the ideal image of modern man. For example, on the right, just think of finding your way home if you were a 4-year-old child or a 40-year-old adult. There's immense anonymity, anonymity in these places. And the open spaces are often vast and rather difficult to feel yourself enjoying yourself in those spaces and participating in them. Whereas low-rise, high-density housing in more walkable communities might create a better quality of life. On the left, you see a small mews off the street where small children can play safely away from cars. And on the street, you see lit stairways where it's there's a great deal of security on those streets. Security and comfort in these walkable communities. And let's just get back to density. Never think that just building high produces the highest densities. It's a myth. Often low-rise, dense, compact, walkable, livable communities are often as dense or even a bit more dense than high-rise communities. Perhaps the most difficult issue I'll speak about today is equity, equality, and inclusion. All sectors, health, economy, education, housing, justice, work, make it difficult to achieve equity, equality, and inclusion in our cities. A lot has been done to deal with issues of inclusion, gender issues, issues for permitting the disabled access. Many books have been written, a vision for growing an inclusive city, building inclusive cities. But most important is that we have to look at all aspects of equity, equality, and inclusion. Social issues, economic issues, and spatial issues. How we make people feel comfortable moving about our communities. We must address citizen engagement. We can't plan our cities from the top down. even with the best talents, without citizen engagement, without citizen participation, without people telling us what their needs are and their aspirations are, we will not create the best communities and the best cities. We must learn from people. And who are the people in our cities today? 17% of New York City households are nuclear families with children under 25. 50 years ago, we considered that the norm for most of our design in cities. Now, 33% of our households are single people households, single person households. 24% are households where people share their home with at least one other adult. So there are clearly immediate issues that we have to solve as we begin to ponder the more global long-term issues. But let's just think about immediate issues. Process we have to have until we're all vaccinated to create our new normal. We're going to wear masks for a long time, but we have to think about returning to school, returning to work. And in the United States, we have to encourage all of our people to get vaccinated. So there are lots of long-term issues to explore, and they go the full range of issues. One that's particularly interesting to me, just in my city, is we have over 520 miles of waterfront with rising sea levels and storm surge, all at our water's edge in our city. And many good solutions are coming about, some creating good environmental solutions, all of them lifting us up higher and higher to avoid the storm surge and the rising sea levels. But we have to think of this as an opportunity. Every time we think of a solution to a global problem, we have to think of the opportunities that will add not only the solution to the problem to solve the immediate issue of, in this case, sea rise and storm surge, but to look at our culture and say, let's add good, accessible, open space. Let us perhaps integrate some new agroponics and agriculture to bring food and let children see how food grows. Aquaculture, creating seaweed and breeding fish at our water's edge. Think about lifelong education, which is now prevalent, and how that could happen as we solve storm surge and sea level rise, and begin to create all the spatial new places that will make our water's edge a better place for our cities. So I work on this sort of thing, and I also work with many different groups to implement UN Sustainable Development Goals. Again, there are lots of people working throughout the world. And on the Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17. And as we think about how we can be helpful to the world around us, we can Google and learn more about the SDGs of UN Habitat, and perhaps inform us a pathway that follows our own expertise. In 2019, Anna Rubo from Columbia University's Center for Sustainable Urban Development, involved with the Earth Institute, issued a call for local projects, the Local Project Challenge. I want you to, after this, Google localprojectchallenge.org, as you see below. And it really, this project challenged people's passions and expertise and actions, and shows community engagement and civil society actions throughout the world. 110 projects were received by Anna, and these are just some of them that I'm showing you. In fact, my firm, Perkins Eastman, in our Mumbai and Guayaquil, Ecuador offices, engaged universities in those cities to work, and their students, to work with us to study our projects and see how they could help us think about solving the Sustainable Development Goals and perhaps improve our projects. And in fact, they did. And in fact, the results were such a success that we're continuing those efforts in other places and other projects, with other projects. But as you look through them, the small and large efforts that were to solve problems in different cities throughout the world, you will begin to see how important participation is. I show you another project that another group, the Consortium for Sustainable Urbanization, where I'm a board member, is involved in Green Cities 2021 program. Here we're going to get an expert or an officer, mayor, or a resilience officer from that city to speak to us and explain how their city is combating climate change and some of the important issues confronting their city, so we can all learn. My focus remains with implementing the Sustainable Development Goals through my work as an architect and urban designer with my firm, and with several wonderful NGOs working to make cities more inclusive, more safe, more resilient, and clearly sustainable. And as you can see, I participate in World Urban Forums and surround myself with the Sustainable Development Goals of UN Habitat. So I'd like you to now think about what you can do to create a better world. Let's explore and think about that. We know about recycling. We see those three receptacles, and instead of paper, plastic, and bottles, let's make them global, local, and personal. Let's think and discover our passions. Use your own expertise, and let's perhaps change the world. So thank you, Urban Thinking Talks. Let's create more livable cities post-COVID-19. Let's change the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.